down go the holier than thous.
That's right.
Steps up and delivers a 50-50 ball. What a catch by Olave.
Rescue reports that he is on his way to the Milwaukee Bucks.
He's not getting his happy ending this time.
Okay, Saturday, December 23rd. Justin, awesome show today. Jamie Seh from WKMG in Orlando. Going to come on, break down the Orlando Magic. Awesome season they are having so far. One of the most surprising stories in the NBA and even just sports in general, with being one of the worst teams last year, now being in the top 4 in the East. We're just top 2 a little bit ago. And we're going to break down with her what they've been doing so successfully and why they've been having the success they've been having and what the outlook for the rest of the year is going forward. But before we get to that interview, let's break down Thursday Night Football, and then we'll get into the rest of the games of Week 16 coming up in our usual breakdown. Let's start with Thursday Night Football, though. What do you think about this game, Justin? I mean, Rams yet again showed explosive offense, and Saints again came out slow, and surprisingly for a defense that's been playing very well all year, weren't able to really stop the Rams. And the Rams just basically were able to control the pace of the game the entire game. What were your takeaways from this game? It was kind of a weird game for the Saints. Didn't really show up as I thought they would.
Yeah, definitely a weird game for the Saints, but the Rams are a playoff team. They are a team that maybe you don't want to play in the playoffs because Sean McVay, I'm starting to think he is the best coach in the NFC, or one of the best coaches in the NFC. Very underrated. He got the Rams last year. I believe they were 5-12. Now they are 8-7. And I think this team is going to be a wild card in the NFC. They just need one more win, really, to wrap it up. They play the Giants next Sunday, and then the 49ers, who might be resting their guys. Potentially have the 1 seed locked up by then. But for the Rams, this is a big win for them, and I think this is a wild card team and maybe even a sleeper team in the playoffs. Maybe they probably won't beat the Niners in the playoffs, but I think this team can get a wild card and make some noise.
No, it's a team you do not want to play in the playoffs for sure. I mean, they're kind of like the Texans of the AFC and some other teams in the AFC as well. Like, they're definitely a team you do not want to play because they've been playing some of their best ball down the second half of the stretch here. This was basically a playoff game for the Rams, though. You can argue how important this game was for Los Angeles. If they lost, I think they would have had a 20% chance to make the playoffs. But now, of course, after Thursday night's win, they have a 70% chance to make the playoffs. The score didn't really give it justice. I mean, the Rams were so dominant on both sides of the ball, both offensively and defensively. The score made it seem like the Saints were way more in this game than they actually were. The only reason the game was close was because the Saints had a couple of nice end zone stops, but then more importantly, some special teams blunders by the Rams is really what kept the Saints in the game. And other than that, the Saints couldn't stop the run. The Saints couldn't stop the pass. They didn't pressure Stafford all game. Stafford, had all the time in the world to make decisions, had all the time in the world to throw the ball. They couldn't tackle anyone in the open field. The Saints, again, started out the game slowly. They had some momentum going into this halftime, but of course the Rams did come out in the third quarter and pretty much just took the game away from there. They did have, like I said, the momentum though going into the halftime. I thought the Saints were going to come back when that happened. Of course, Rashid Shaheed made that incredible catch, big time catch that, like I said, did give them that momentum. In that second quarter, Rashid Shaheed, 5th reception of this year of over 40-plus air yards. That's the most in the NFL, and that's the most by a Saints receiver all time. And like I said, after that, I really thought the Saints had a chance to kind of, make this game at least interesting. But no, at the end of the day, Rams were just the way better team for pretty much all 4 quarters. And Saints are in trouble now. Of course, with their division, still have a chance, but the chances got a lot less. A lot less now after Thursday night's game. Closest game of the week. Justin, let's move on to the rest of the games. Week 16, break them down like we always do. I'm going to start with you. What is your closest game coming up in Week 16 slate?
Closest game, I'm actually going to go Cowboys-Dolphins. I think that's going to be closer than the last time for the Cowboys. I still think that they're not the best team on the road. Obviously, all their losses. The Dolphins, a very hungry team and very good offense. I think this is going to be a high-scoring offensive game and probably might be the shootout for me as well as the closest game.
Yeah, it's my shootout of the week, and we'll get to that in a second. But it's also loser gets the fraud tag put on them. I think officially, Cowboys and Dolphins are a combined 1-6 against teams above 500, and they're 19-2 in all other games. So, it's the first time in NFL history between teams that had 20 combined wins, but one or fewer versus above 500 teams. So this is a massive game, not for playoff contentions so much. I mean, Cowboys, of course, it would be a lot for them because of not only the divisional title, but maybe even the conference title. But really, it's more for that fraud watch because whoever loses this game, that narrative is going to continue, and it's going to be even more alarming after this game. So it's a big game for them to kind of show that they belong in the league as one of the top teams, especially heading into the playoffs. My closest game, though, I am going to put as the Ravens and the Niners. Niners explosive offense versus Ravens incredible secondary and just defense in general. Baltimore is allowing the fewest net yards per pass attempt at 4.9, so just under 5. And they're the first team to have this number since the 2008 Super Bowl champion Steelers. Of course, the Niners, though, have an incredible offense. They lead the NFL in yards after catch per reception at 6.8. Baltimore, though, has allowed the fewest at 4.4. So it's a juggernaut offense against a juggernaut defense, and I think it's going to be a really close game. It's going to be really exciting. This is going to be a potential Super Bowl preview, too, and it's going to just be an awesome game. Definitely the best game of this weekend, of this week 16 slate. Most intriguing storyline.
I would
Justin,
say for the Niners and Ravens, I mean, that's probably my second pick as well. I think that's going to be a very low-scoring defensive game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout one way or another. I'm looking at like a 2017, 17-14 game. A lot of running the ball. Both teams are running the ball very well, and the defense is Baltimore's great defense. The Niners have a really good defense as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be high scoring actually, but I mean, I could see it going both ways though. I really could. San Fran is at home, going to help a lot, but it's also Lamar Jackson against the NFC, and he doesn't lose against NFC opponents. So we'll see what happens. What's your most intriguing storyline going into this weekend?
Can the Philadelphia Eagles bounce back from their 3 straight losses? The Giants coming in. Tommy DeVito's looked impressive, except for last week, obviously. But can the Philadelphia Eagles bounce back? Can the Philadelphia Eagles get right back on track? And pretty much the same thing for the Kansas City Chiefs as well. Last week, they did win. But for Kansas City and for the Eagles, can they really both get back on track? The Chiefs, they did get a 10-point win at New England last week, but they have the Raiders coming in to Arrowhead. That could be a big win for them. But the Chiefs, it looks like their schedule's easy as well as the Philadelphia Eagles for the final 3 games. But for the 2 teams that made it to the Super Bowl last year, can they get it going, or are they going to be frauds?
No, this is my most intriguing storyline too. It's bad for the Eagles. People kind of forget though. It's interesting. Niners also went through a 3-game skid, and people aren't really talking about that. Eagles are having theirs at the end of the season though, which of course is way worse than having it in the middle of the season like the 49ers did, however. And it's also a little bit different. Eagles just don't look good on paper or on the field. Like eye test or by standing alone, they just don't look very good right now. Their offense has been sputtering. 3 straight losses, of course, to really good teams, Niners, Cowboys, and Seahawks. They had an offense last year that would, grind opponents into submission, wear down defenses, come up with big plays. But this offense we've seen from the Eagles these last three games is not that from last year. And it's not like it was even the beginning of the year. They've only had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Sirianni came out saying no changes at coach expected to be made. Of course, it would look really, really bad, basically benching 2 coordinators in back-to-back weeks, but something has to be done for sure. And I want to see if they can get, stop the bleeding against this Giants team, which they should stomp the Giants. They should, especially Tom DeVito. Likely his span coming to an end. He actually, I think, is injured. He might not even play. But yeah, I mean, something has to be done. Hurts calling out his teammates about commitment, and
Locker room
team right now is
issues,
just bad shape, all things considered, with the Eagles. And yeah, something they need. Giants, unfortunately, might be that team that they just bounce back with and really beat up on, because they need a confidence boost big time.
They need a confidence boost. And another bold prediction: if this game might end in a tie. I could definitely see it ending in a tie. That's
really?
if the Eagles can't get it together. But if they can, they will win this game. But it's just, imagine if this ends in a tie. That would just be.
If you predicted enough times, it'll happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I always say. But yeah, they got Giants this week, Cardinals, and then Giants again. I mean, they still, crazy enough, despite these 3 games they've had, they still are definitely in the, they can definitely still win the conference, especially the division. I mean, San Francisco, they have the Ravens coming up, as we just said, Sunday night, and then the Commanders, and then the Rams end of the year, as we said earlier too. That's not going to be an easy win either. So that's gonna, they definitely have a chance to still win the conference and win the division as well. Cowboys themselves, they have the Dolphins coming up this weekend, like we just said. The Lions are kind of a weird team. I don't really know what to make of the Lions right now, but then they do have the Commanders. So I think if Eagles can win these next 3 games, I think 49ers and Cowboys definitely have a chance to at least lose one of their games coming up these next 3 games. So it's definitely still up for the table, both the division and the conference for the taking. Surprise of the week, Justin, what do you have as a surprise of the week?
Surprise of the week here. Not looking like a big week for upsets, but a potential upset I'm looking at could be the Texans over the Browns. It could even be the Vikings over the Lions. That's a divisional game. The Lions haven't been the best, not the best team, but they got it back last week against the Broncos. They dominated that game. But yeah, the Vikings might be able to upset the Lions, or even the Texans might be able to bounce back against the Browns at home. Both teams are home.
Yeah. I think Houston and Cleveland would be a pretty even matchup. Tampa Bay against Jacksonville, I think you might have mentioned that. That could be a weird game. Baker Mayfield had a really good game last week. Besides that, I mean, I think a lot of teams are pretty evenly matched. I think one game I could see being kind of weird would be Buffalo at the Chargers. Chargers just fired Staley, playing Saturday night. Weird game, weird time to play Saturday night. And the Chargers just coming off firing their coach. I think that could be definitely a weird game too. I could see that maybe being kind of wonky, and Chargers coming out with a victory in that game. But my official pick, though, for surprise of the week, I'm going to go Cardinals over Bears. One of those games, like I just said, kind of an even matchup. I don't really think it's going to be a big surprise per se, but Arizona has been running the ball insanely well lately. The past weekend against the Niners, Arizona Cardinals, they ran the ball 30 times, tallied up 234 rushing yards, and averaged just under 8 yards per attempt. On the year, they're averaging 132 yards per game on the ground, which is actually 7th in the National Football League. I mean, they're solid on the ground game. Bears offense isn't good though, and I think they're gonna struggle to score against the Cardinals. Bears can't score points. They average 20.5 points per contest. That's 22nd in the NFL. The Bears have thrown for a total of 2,569 yards through the air, along with an average of 183.5 throwing yards per game. That's 27th in the NFL, and they only maintain an average of 134 rushing yards per game. So that's 22nd in the NFL. So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be an awkward game. I'm sorry. The Bears are averaging 307 17.9 yards per outing, which is 22nd in the NFL. But rushing isn't good either. Rushing or passing is not good for the Bears, and their offense is just abysmal overall. And I think the Cardinals actually might have a chance to come away with a win against the Bears. They're going to have a hard time stopping that run. Shootout of the week. Justin, what is your shootout of the week?
Cowboys-Dolphins, obviously, as I just said, that's going to be the closest game, and I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game in the 30s as well. Maybe 34-31, 37-34 we're looking at. Probably a late field goal win for the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's going to be my shootout too. We already mentioned how crucial this game is for the teams that are both on fraud alert right now. Cowboys struggle away, and Dolphins play really well at home, though, too. Cowboys have been a different team away from AT&T Stadium all season. Mike McDaniel, he's 5-2 against the spread at Hard Rock Stadium, while the Cowboys are 3-4 on the road against the spread. So Dallas got steamrolled. 266 rush yards Sunday against the Bills offense. The Dolphins lead the NFL in yards per rush. That's courtesy, of course, of Mostert and Akane. The Cowboys are 31st in success rate versus the run and are allowing 192 rush yards per game in losses this season. That's the highest by any team since the 2010 Bills. So Dolphins, I think, are going to run the ball down the Cowboys' throats. They play really good at home. Cowboys play really bad away. I actually am taking the Dolphins pretty easily in this game. I think handily. I think the Dolphins will come up and show out against the Cowboys, but it's going to be a high scoring game, that's for sure, because I think the Dolphins are going to score a lot of points, especially on the ground, and the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, is going to have to really have some high explosive offense to kind of keep up with their scoring prowess to have any chance in this game. So yeah, definitely take the over in this game. I think it's pretty much a lock that this game is going to be a pretty high scoring affair. Over is currently at 51. So yeah, I definitely take that. Hammer that while you can. Snoozer of the week, opposite end of the spectrum. Justin, what is your snoozer of the week?
I'll go Packers-Panthers. The Packers are probably going to fall apart here and just crumble. I mean, they might even lose the game. The Panthers are they're 2-12. I mean, fired Frank Reich during the season, and that team has so many problems, obviously. Well, both teams do, but I think that game's going to be a snoozer.
Yeah. I'm going to go Commanders, Jets. Nothing really to say here. Jets are on like their 8th quarterback of the season, it sounds like. Hal isn't going to play, benched last week. Jets arguably are the worst offenses in the history of football. Jets are sitting 30th in the league at averaging only 14.4 points per game. This year, so far, the Jets have compiled only 2,380 yards via the pass and an average of 170 passing yards per game. That's ranking them 30 out of all the NFL teams, averaging just 85.1 yards per game on the ground, and have only ran the ball for just under 1,200 yards for the season. Jets maintain an average of 255.1 yards per outing, which ranks them as 32nd out of all the teams in the NFL. So Jets are just abysmal on offense. They can't get anything done. Like I said, they're on like their 10th quarterback at this point. Commanders, not much better. Average of 20.1 points per game. Offensively, they're holding an average of only 98 yards on the ground, ranking them 24th in the NFL. And Commanders have only attained 4,666 total yards for the season. Absolutely abysmal. This game is going to be like a 3-6 final score. I don't even know who has 6. I don't even know who has 3. It's just going to be really low scoring. It's going to be really ugly to watch. So hammer the under. I'm going to hammer the over for the Cowboys-Dolphins, but this game, Jets-Commanders, I'm definitely hammering the under for sure. What's your favorite of the week, Justin? Who do you have as a lock going into this week?
I got the Broncos over the Patriots. Easy win for Denver. They're at home. The Patriots, what else you got to say about them? They're done this year. I mean, the Broncos still fighting for a wild card spot in the AFC. Tough loss at Detroit. They're going to come back very hungry at home against New England.
Yeah, Broncos desperate, coming off a bad loss to the Lions. Patriots in the Caleb Williams Bowl for sure. They want to get Caleb Williams. They don't have any reason to win. Both teams headed in opposite directions. Broncos, though, I think are going to come out, smoke the Pats because Pats have nothing to play for, and Broncos kind of do. So, yeah, that's going to be my favorite of the week too. I can also see another game I think could also see being kind of weird, and I would like to take the Steelers over the Bengals. Steelers, despite last week, Steelers play absolutely amazing on Saturdays, and Steelers are also an underdog now. Like they weren't the last 2 weekends, but they're an underdog at home now, which Mike Tomlin also tends to be very well in those scenarios. So I think Steelers over the Bengals in Pittsburgh this weekend could also be one of my favorites because despite what we saw last week, Steelers are still one of the best teams in the history of the NFL on playing on Saturdays. Writer's block, Justin, what is your writer's block of the week before we get into our interview with Rebecca?
My writer's block is possible landing spots if the Bears trade Justin Fields. It's interesting, but it's also a little bit too early to tell. Maybe Justin Fields needs better coaching around him, and the Chicago Bears definitely need to bring in a new head coach and bring in some offensive minds as well that can work with Justin Fields and maybe even trade him to a team with better offensive minds. But it might be a little bit too early to tell, but we're getting towards that time of the year.
Yeah, my my writer's block, slow, despite Yoshimoto, whatever his name was, besides him getting signed yesterday, it's a slow week in MLB when there's an article coming out about Shohei Ohtani naming his dog. That actually was a legit article on The Athletic that Shohei Ohtani had a name for his dog, named him Decoy. Basically, in Japanese, it translates to flicking of the head, which I don't really get what that means. I don't really get it. But yeah, that was an actual story on The Athletic about Shohei Ohtani naming his dog. A lot of people thought it was going to be Dodger. He was going to name his dog Dodger. That would have been pretty sweet. But no, went with Decoy instead. And that was that was a thing I saw on The Athletic. So that was the ultimate writer's block. All right, let's move on to our interview with Jamie Seh. Awesome interview. WKMG in Orlando, breaking down Magic, their season so far, why they've been so successful, kind of what the outlook is going forward for the team too. So without further ado, let's head to Orlando and talk to Jamie. Okay, heading south, talking to Jamie Seh, sports director, WKMG in Orlando. Jamie, had to have you on. Orlando Magic doing very well. One of the most fun teams to watch in the league. We'll get to that in a second. But overall, I wanted to ask you just what has been their success? I mean, what has been the thing that you would pinpoint the most on just why they were able to have this bounce back year that they've had this year? I mean, one of the worst teams in the league for the last decade. And now they find themselves, they were second in the East not too long ago. Now, as we record today on Thursday, they're fourth, but still, again, rolling and playing one of their best balls they played in the last decade, like I just said. And what has been like the thing that you would pinpoint as has been leading to their success, this year so far?
I think what it is, it's probably team chemistry. They all get along really well, and it seems like they've accepted their roles. Each player on that team has a role, and they're willing to do it. Like Paolo Banchero is obviously, going to be a guy. He's going to be a guy that's going to take the shot at the end. Franz Wagner is obviously one of their best players too, offensively. He could be a shot. He could be a guy that takes the shot at the end, and the other guys are good with that. The rest of the guys, have their roles, and they're really satisfied with it. Their third leading scorer is Cole Anthony, and he's coming in off the bench. This is a really young team, and they play with a lot of energy and hustle and effort. So, I think it's the chemistry, the fact they all get along, and they're building a really good culture there. And this year, as opposed to maybe year one under Jamal Mosley, when the team was really young, they believe they can win any game that they play. a year ago that wasn't the fact. A year ago, 26 games in, they were 6-26. 26 games in now, they're 16-10. So I think there's a belief there that if they play hard and they stick to their principles of defending, they believe they can win any game. And I think they've kind of caught the league by surprise a little bit, at the outset. And now teams are much more aware that they have to, they're going to get a good effort from the Magic every time they step on the floor against Orlando.
No, and you mentioned the team effort and the team coming together and all having that same common goal. I mean, you mentioned Cole being the third leading scorer, or the third best scorer on the team, and I think Pablo is probably the highest leading scorer on the team, and I think he has less than 21 points a game, averaging less than 21 points a game. So everyone is scoring on this team. I mean, Mo Wagner and Cole Anthony, they've been playing amazing off the bench. I mean, one of the six mans of the year will probably come from Orlando, whether it be Mo Wagner or Cole Anthony. But that's been one of the things, like I said, when I introduced this interview, just Orlando not only playing well, but just one of the most fun teams to watch in the league right now. I mean, they're always constantly in motion, cutting to the basket all the time. I mean, the ball flows around so well with the team, and you can really just tell they have that chemistry when they play every night.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of basic basketball. It's like good things happen when you share the ball and you look for the best shot. And that's something that head coach Jamal Mosley has really instilled in this team. And I think he hammers that home offensively all the time. And when they don't win, it's when the ball movement stalls or they're forcing shots because maybe they get behind. They just lost to I mean, they're on a 3-game skid right now. They lost to the Celtics twice and the Heat. And when you look at the Heat game, they fell behind by a lot in the second quarter. The Heat just kind of exploded. The Magic's 3-point offense or defense wasn't very good, and it impacted their offense. Then they're kind of forcing up some things or missing shots. But it's like when they're sharing the ball and when they get back to their principles, Jamal Mosley always talks about their principles of sharing the ball, looking for the best shot, and getting after it on defense. That's when they believe they have any shot to win. They know, though, that they can't take a moment off in the game. They're just not there. They're not a team that's capable of, falling behind by a lot and making some explosive fourth quarter run to win the game. So they play hard from start to finish. They're going to play hard from start to finish. And I think that's part of the culture that Jamal Mosley has instilled. He's been a great coach since he started here a couple of years ago. He's in year 3 right now, and he's got these guys playing as one collective. And it has to do with, what he preaches in practice and what his assistants help instill there, and he's a really good coach for a young generation, and this is a young team, and it seems like he's super relatable to these guys, and they play hard for him and each other.
I kind of want to go off something you just said. I mean, it's funny with the Magic because you can, based on the talent that they have, you can almost make an argument that there is a small margin of error for the team, but then at the same time, they also lead the league in turnovers, don't they? I mean, one of the highest turnover prone teams in the NBA, and that's because they pass the ball so much, and they, like you were just saying, Jamie. But it's funny because one way it's like you can kind of say they don't have a margin of error, but at the same time they turn the ball over a lot, so that might not be true either. So what do you think about? I mean, what is your thoughts on them having that small margin of error with the talent that they have?
Yeah, I mean, turnovers have been an issue, for the last. I mean, since year 1 of Jamal Mosley, and he knows it, the team knows it. And, I mean, it's just, they've played some good teams, that get after it on defense, that, put their hands in the lane and stuff like that. And sometimes, they force a bad pass and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, when they're low turnover, they usually win. I mean, when they're not giving the ball away, they usually win. So that's something they have to correct. But also, I want to point out their starting point guard, Markelle Fultz, has been out of action for probably like six weeks or more. So, so I think that's something, like they're starting, Markelle has some knee tendonitis, We're not sure exactly when he's getting back on the court, but he's working his way. So, they've started a rookie at point guard, in these last couple weeks, and Anthony Black, their lottery pick. And then you've got multiple guys handling the ball, like Jalen Suggs will handle the ball a little bit too. Cole run the point off the bench and stuff like that. So, so they don't have that guy. So I think when Markelle comes back, that will cut down on the turnovers. And then it's just about, how he kind of matriculates back into the system when he's fully healthy. But it was interesting. The Magic last year started 5-20, and then 6-20. And it was because Markelle was injured at the beginning of the season. He had broken his toe. He comes back, and they basically have a winning record the rest of the year. And like you can point to his return to the Magic playing better. So I think that's part of it. And then, but they've still been winning basketball games despite their turnovers. It's just a testament to how hard they play on defense, I think. And, getting back in transition when they turn the ball over, they make a concerted effort. And it's just a total team approach. I mean, not only has Markelle been injured, Wendell Carter, they're starting forward center. He just got back last night after missing 6 weeks. And Goga Batadze filled in for him, and he was a really good defensive guy, and would have a couple of 13-point games too. So it's been really, again, collective on the part of this team.
Markelle Fultz is just to kind of explain it. I know he's been having a lot of injury issues the last couple of years, but it sounds like Markelle Fultz has kind of found a resurgence in Orlando.
Oh,
I'm from Philadelphia,
yes.
So we all know how the Philadelphia fans feel about Markelle Fultz, unfortunately. But is he kind of flying under the radar in Orlando? And are people not really giving him enough credit for having this, like I said, resurgence that he's having?
Yeah, perhaps around the NBA, he has gone under the radar, and yeah, he's missed time. He's missed time with injuries, but when he's out there, he's a game changer for the Magic. I really enjoy Markelle. He's a nice young man. I mean, and I say he's just a nice, good person who will do whatever the team needs him to do. I mean, I'm sure he's more frustrated than anybody that he's missed so much time. But the one thing he's done is he works really hard to get back so he's ready from the jump when he gets out there. So I'm sure, this setback has been really frustrating for him. But, he doesn't let that impact the team. But, yeah, he's a good point guard. And he makes a difference when he's out there on the floor. And really, the Magic didn't get him for much. When you remember the trade with the Sixers, it was, I think it was 2019? 2019 right. After... and they gave up Jonathan Simmons for him, and I think like a second rounder, and he's blossomed into a reliable starter. And so they're anxious. I know they want to get him back. Everybody likes Markelle on the team too. Everybody likes Markelle in Orlando. He makes some things look effortless, in terms of his ball handle and his court vision and the way he feeds the guys. So, when he gets back and if he's fully healthy, I think he'll be a big difference. And the Magic have played well without him, because Franz Wagner can run a little point too, kind of at the point forward too. So there's some ball handlers, but when Markelle comes back, he'll be a difference.
Yeah, I've always liked him, despite the rhetoric I would hear in Philadelphia. I always did like him because I think he was a nice guy, and I think he had a really just bad run of things when he first got into the league with his injuries, and then of course, I think it was his shoulder at that time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was like some weird condition, upper body, shoulder, kind of like how he couldn't raise his arm, his shoulder, above a certain point. Yeah. And then, basically the only solution was time and rest. And, when you're the number one pick, you don't have time, especially by that team that drafted you. So it's like, it's understandable that things, that some patience was run out of in Philadelphia, but he got a new start in Orlando, and the pressures in Orlando are different than Philadelphia.
Yes.
The situation he was coming into in Orlando was different. The Magic and the fan base, have been mired in this kind of a malaise for a long time. So it's just like, okay, let's give him a shot. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens. And really, like, he's had a good second career here. It would just be nice to get him back. But I know he'll be ready when he comes on the floor.
Yeah, Philly fans aren't really known to be patient. It was weird though. He had like some kind of shot then in his shoulder that made things even worse. It was a weird situation.
Very strange. Yeah.
Orlando doesn't take a lot of mid-range shots, so we know they're very dominant down low. They're known for that. I think you alluded to that too already. And they don't really shoot the ball very well at the 3-point line. We can get to that in a little bit too. But do the fans want to see the Magic shoot more mid-range shots?
I think really honestly, they want better 3-point shooting. That's what fans want. They want Paolo not to change. Paolo's a guy that can do a lot of different things. He can penetrate and he can shoot a mid-range jumper and hit it. And sometimes he can hit a three. But like, I think what Orlando fans would like is some more 3-point shooting. Every team wants 3-point shooting, and it's come along. It's much better this year than it was last year and the year before. But I would say Magic fans want more of that. But they're fine. If the Magic guys penetrate and score and draw a foul. I mean, I know Jamal Mosley wants guys going to the line too. He wants calls against the other team. And Paolo and Franz are certainly willing to do that now that Wendell Carter Jr. is back. You've got another force down low. But yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, mid-range jumpers really aren't a thing here in Orlando, but it's like, if they can play inside, outside, I think that's what the fans want.
Let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. I mean, another thing I read online a lot about the Magic, and then of course when I watch them play as well, is they don't really allow a whole lot of shots by their opponents. I mean, they turn the ball over a lot, but they also force a lot of turnovers. Teams that they play against, they don't get many second chance shots. They're causing their opponents to shoot late into the shot clock. They hold the ball themselves. The Magic hold the ball themselves a lot. I mean, they go late into the shot clock, so they have the ball offensively a lot. So a lot of the teams they just don't allow their opponents to really shoot the ball too much. And I think has that been? I mean, what has been more like the success on the team? Has it really been their offensive scheming that Jamal Mosley has been implementing, or has it been more the defensive side of the ball as to lead their success?
I would say defense. I mean, I think it's both. Like you mentioned, Orlando has a tendency to hold the ball, so offense can be defense by not giving. If they don't turn the ball over by kind of milking the clock a little bit. But ever since he got here, Jamal has preached defense. His term is 5 guys on a string. 5 guys on a string. Like, everybody knows their assignments. Everybody knows when to help. Everybody knows when not to help. Everybody knows when to switch, when they have to switch. And they really play tenacious defense and they get after it. And they've got good defenders on the team. And it starts with Jalen Suggs. A top 5 pick for the Magic a couple years ago. Offensively, his game is still coming along, but defensively and effort, it's right there. He's a pest on the floor. He is a pest, and his defensive plays have a tendency to spark the Magic. And when they're at home and he makes a play, well, that ignites the crowd. And then they've got some really good rim protectors. Jonathan Isaac is back after missing. Gosh, I mean, it seems like 2 or 3 years with knee injuries, but Isaac is back and he's a great rim protector, good shot blocker. And he's a very willing defender, and he knows he prides himself on defense. J.I. does. And then with Wendell coming back, he's a big man down low and he's a tough defender, and Batazzi off the bench has been really good to protect the rim too. But it's like, it feels like there's a tone and an expectation set. It's like, you've got to defend, and they know that. But they're just sound. They know their assignments. They know to help. And because they know you have to play really hard on defense in order to win. So it's just been a mindset, I think.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of rhetoric that's been coming out in the NBA over the last, how many years has been offense is really
Mm-hmm.
what wins games, not defense. And they're kind of showing the opposite, which is, I think, kind of interesting. And on that note, do you think Jamal Mosley has a legit chance to win Coach of the Year this year?
I think he
If
should be considered. I mean,
Yeah.
really, like I do. Like, I mean, and obviously I'm biased because I'm right here. But it's like, this is the same group as last year, essentially. They there's maybe one or two players that are different. They brought in Joe Ingles, a veteran, off the bench, for the bench, and Joe has been a wonderful addition. Veteran presence, knowledgeable on the floor, really helps with that second unit. But this all, I really feel like it all comes from Jamal. Like he's set a culture along with the management here, to bring guys in who fit with the system. And it's such a young team. And I really do feel like you do have to coach young players different than veterans. And, in my time here, when I first started, I started with a veteran team, with Dwight Howard and Jameer Nelson, and they had a set way to play under Stan Van Gundy. And then it was just like, all right, resets. But these guys, were a mix of veterans and young players. Well, this is just youth all around. And Jamal is getting the best out of these guys. And it's happened since really day one, since he got here. He lets the guys rest a little bit more. One of the things I noticed in year one was like Magic didn't, weren't shooting around every day. It wasn't, he doesn't set up, he kind of stayed away from the grind, of working 6 out of 7 days a week, mixed games with practice and shoot arounds. Like he'd give the guys some time to rest their bodies and stuff. They brought in other personnel, in terms of, for conditioning and nutrition and mental and stuff like that. But there's an interesting culture here, and I think it starts with Jamal and the management. So yeah, like I think he's worthy of being in the conversation for sure. And I'm sure, if the Magic continue this trend, if they continue having winning records every month of the season, which, leads to playoffs, if he gets them to the playoffs, yeah, I think he should be a top candidate.
Well, going off, so this has been really fun, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks, Jared.
But my last question, going off that, what is like, I know you said you're a little biased, but what is the overall vibe of the city? Does the city actually think this is a true championship contender, or is the expectation that they would be thrilled even just making the playoffs? Especially, not to state the obvious, but especially if they can get their turnovers down, get the 3-point percentage up a little bit more. Like, do they actually think this team is a legit contender?
I'm not sure about championship, but there is an excitement in this city about this team. The last 2 seasons have been some of the biggest crowds at that arena, which is crazy to think because, that arena started with Dwight Howard. And it seems like that excitement's come back. Everybody's really thrilled about Paolo Banchero, when the Magic drafted him. But I would say Magic fans are extremely patient. They understand that this might not be the year for a championship. I mean, that would be crazy. I mean, that would be beyond anybody's wildest dreams, I feel, outside the organization. But there's a lot of hope in this city. And there would be disappointment if this team outside that locker room, there would be disappointment outside the locker room if they don't make the playoffs, because that's the expectation and that's what they've been trending towards. And there's hope that they win a series or two. I think the expectation in the locker room is for them to make the playoffs, and be a seed that's not in the play-in. Be a seed that starts with a series, and I think they expect to win a series. So I think that's where it is. But again, Magic fans are patient, but there's a lot of hope, and I haven't seen this kind of hope in a long time. So it's great. Like it's a great environment inside that building right now. The team is fun to watch, and I think the fans are having fun consistently for the first time in a long time.
No, I think it's interesting and important that you mentioned that distinction. Not just make the playoffs, but make one of the top 6. Not that play in, because anything can happen in that play. And I think a lot of people, and I'm not really sure what your thoughts on it, but a lot of people would say that the playoffs actually don't start until really the first round isn't that round until after the play-ins. A lot of people would say. And I'm actually looking at the standings now in the East. I know it's obviously super early. It's not even halfway through the season yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're tied with Knicks, Cavaliers, and the Heat. So you're 4th, obviously, Knicks 5th, Cavaliers 6th, and then Heat 7th. You're all tied at 16 wins right now. So if that keeps up, I mean, it's going to be a tight little race down the stretch.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and those are teams that have veteran players and veteran stars. The Heat took it to the Magic last night, but the Magic are capable of beating the Heat too. But the Heat have have an accomplished team. The Knicks have a team that's been together for a long time, but I feel like the Magic are ready to go to war. This week has been humbling, 2 losses in Boston and last night's loss to Miami. So it's just like, okay, the reality is setting in that these are going to be battles, but I feel like the Magic are confident that they can go to war. Now, I will say this, like their schedule ahead is tough because I think like 17 of their next 25 games are on the road. So they shot kind of to second place with, they had a 6-game homestand and they won all 6. So they were home a lot in November. They started the season with a tough road because they went out west like immediately. And they, acquitted themselves pretty well. But then in November, they were home a lot. So January has always been a tough month for this franchise. Last year, it wasn't. But again, 17 of their next 25 are on the road, and they've got a West Coast trip right around the turn of the calendar into 2024. So, this is going to be a trying month, a trying 5 weeks for them, I would say, from this point till early February. So the next 6 weeks are going to be tough. But that's life in the NBA. So we'll really see. But I feel like coming out of the All-Star break last year, Magic was really surging, and despite a 5-20 start to the season, I mean, they made a case to make a play-in game and they just missed out on it. So it's like, if they can stay healthy, another key is Paolo really hasn't missed much time, and Franz hasn't missed much time either. So that's been key. Those 2 guys are key. So if they can stay healthier, get the guys back, and be somewhat full strength, we'll see. We'll see what they can do.
How are they as an away team, just in general?
They've been pretty good this year, actually. I'm not sure I honestly, don't know what their road mark is right now. I mean, after losing 2 in Boston, they're probably sub 500. Yeah, they'd be sub 500 right now, but it's not like they're getting blown out in the water. I mean, the games in Boston didn't go well, but they've been okay. One of the things is they've beaten the teams that they're supposed to beat.
Right.
And so that's one of the things too. They haven't had a game where they were upset by anybody, like a quote unquote bad loss against a team, no disrespect to any other team in the NBA, but they haven't had one of those letdown games. And one of the other things is, they just pretty much got blown out by Miami last night. I mean, the final score, I think it was a 9-point game, but the Magic kind of came up late to make it respectable.
Right.
They bounced back pretty well. They do bounce, but that's one thing this season. They've bounced back from losses pretty well. Like and what I mean is like they learn from it. Yeah. And they might not make those mistakes in the next game. They might come further down the road, but some of those things aren't repeating themselves. But Miami had a really good game plan last night. Like they shut down Paolo and Franz. Those 2 combined for only 25. So they need to score about 40. They need to score 35, 40 points. So, and that didn't happen.
No, I mean, it's that we're recording this on Thursday, but now they play Milwaukee tonight. Yeah. And I think that's coming off Lillard's 40 something point game. So might be a tough. It's
going to be tough. They beat Milwaukee early in the season. It was in Orlando. But yeah, they're going to Milwaukee. It's going to be really tough. I'm sure, and it's the second game of a back to back. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, the Magic are definitely going to be the underdog tonight, and could be on the verge of their fourth straight loss. But I'll be interested to see. And then they have Indiana next, who's been playing well. So this is an interesting stretch around the holiday, and we'll see how they bounce back from it. Should things go a little sideways, but they're going to play hard. They're definitely going to play hard, and see what happens.
Yeah, no, and if you're going to learn from teams, the best learn from Boston and Milwaukee, because they're definitely juggernaut of teams.
Definitely.
So,
Yep.
And like you said, if you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, that's going to be a playoff team for sure. So it's if they can keep doing that, they should be a top 6 team in the East. Well, Jamie, this has been really fun. I really
Thanks,
appreciate your
Jared.
time coming on, and it's I'll be in touch. I'll have to have you on again sometime,
Cool.
maybe down the stretch of the season, see how they're doing. Check in with the Magic.
Well, hopefully we're as positive about the Magic as we are today.
I think
It's a long season. They still got a lot they got a lot left. So
no, they've proven to be it's not a fluke. They definitely have proven to have a system for sure. The players, like you said, want to be there. They're playing hard for the team, and like I said, with that system that Mosley has put in, I think they're going to be fine. But like you said, I'm hoping they get down the stretch. I'm hoping they don't get a play-in game, because anything happens in those play-in games, and I would hate. I just want the better team to win, obviously, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Jared. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Jimmy. I'll be in touch. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's finish up the show with our off the map and long hauls of the week, like we always do on Saturday. Justin, start with you. What is your off the map of the week?
My off the map of the week is the New York Mets. Is it time to start overrating Steve Cohen as an owner? I know he spends big money, and I know he's new to the game, but he might be an overrated owner. He might not be what the Met fans are saying that, he's the next Steinbrenner, like with the Yankees. But for Cohen, I definitely think that him not getting Yamamoto is a bad move for the Mets. But they're a rebuilding team, really. I mean, maybe it's time to start overrating Steve Cohen as an owner.
I'm going to go with Amazon buying out Diamond Sports for a streaming deal. Amazon is in talks to invest in the bankrupt regional sports broadcast partner for streaming Diamond Sports. Amazon would acquire multi-year streaming rights to the MLB, NBA, and NHL games carried on cable channels operated by Diamond Sports. Unclear how much Amazon would invest in the company. I think they're still kind of working out the details of the contract. But yeah, Diamond Sports filed for bankruptcy in March. So Amazon's coming in, saving the day, and they will offer live sports as part of their, I know Amazon has a big push for content through commerce. So this is a big effort to kind of increase that. We all see what they're doing with Thursday Night Football. And this is, again, just kind of their effort to get into that streaming, especially with sports streaming. And I think good for them. Buying out Diamond Sports, Amazon will have a lot more regional games coming up now in the near future with this partnership. And it's really cool to see. We're going to see more sports on Prime than just Thursday Night Football. So Amazon's definitely breaking the way as far as streaming sports goes. And this is just another example of how they're doing that. So awesome to see. Pretty cool, all things considered. Justin, what is your long haul of the week?
My long haul of the week is the whole Florida State situation. I know Florida State was wrongly left out of the college football playoff to some, but it's time to start moving on from that right now. Now Florida State is suing the ACC over grant of rights and the withdrawal fee, which we kind of touched on yesterday. But for Florida State, it's kind of time to start. It's kind of time to move on to next season. If you move out of the ACC, that's fine. Into the SEC.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the ultimate long haul. It could have also been a writer's block, really, but Rashawn Mendel's comments about a white versus black game in the NFL. This was so stupid. Social media had an absolute field day with this. Basically, exactly as it sounds, he thought of having a white versus black game to fix the Pro Bowl. The ex-Pittsburgh Steelers star came up with the eyebrow-raising idea after he said he became agitated listening to white people break down NFL action. Everyone on social media is reacting to this and seeing whether or not this game would be even feasible. Of course, it's not going to be. It's such a stupid concept, such a stupid comment. The game leaves out multiple other races from the game. It pits two races against each other. Just a terrible idea, a very stupid idea. People need to stop talking about it, giving it any shred of credibility, because it's such a dumb idea. It would never work. People would have a field day with it, and it's just an overall bad concept and a bad comment, all things considered. So yeah, that's my long haul. People stop talking about the feasibility of a white versus black game in the NFL. It's not going to happen for so many reasons, and it was just a dumb comment, all things considered, by Rashad Mendenhall. Or Rashad and Mendel's, excuse me. All right, Justin, good show. We'll be back on Tuesday. Best of show on Tuesday, for the holidays. Going into the holidays, we'll have a best of show on Tuesday. We'll be back on Thursday, kind of breaking down the New Year's 6 games coming up, and breaking down the New Year's 6 games coming up, and then we'll get you ready for NFL Week 17 as well. Probably have a guest on that show as well. Might be a little bit longer of an episode, but then we'll also have a best of shows then next Tuesday and Thursday as well. So just kind of a programming schedule coming up, but we'll be back on Thursday. But until then, keep on traveling.